Focus. It's the holy grail of productivity in our distracted world. But what if I told you that mastering focus isn't just about willpower? Today, we're diving into the science and strategies behind staying focused in an age of constant interruptions.
That's such an intriguing way to look at it. I think many of us assume focus is something we're either born with or not. Can you elaborate on what you mean?
Absolutely. See, focus isn't some innate superpower. It's more like a muscle we can train and strengthen over time. And just like physical fitness, there are specific techniques and habits we can develop to enhance our mental focus. Let's start with something I call building your focus fortress.
Ooh, I love that term. What exactly does a focus fortress look like?
Well, imagine your workspace as a castle and distractions as invaders trying to breach your walls. Your focus fortress is all about creating an environment that keeps those distractions at bay. This might mean turning off notifications, using website blockers, or even something as simple as keeping your desk tidy. But here's the kicker. It's not just about eliminating distractions, it's also about optimizing your space for focus.
Hmm, that's interesting. So, what kind of optimizations are we talking about?
Great question. One surprising factor is background noise. Studies have shown that certain types of ambient sounds, like white noise or nature sounds, can actually improve focus and productivity. In fact, a 2012 study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that moderate levels of ambient noise, around 70 decibels, can enhance performance on creative tasks.
Wow, I had no idea noise could have such a specific impact. Do you have any go to focus sounds?
Personally, I'm a big fan of lo-fi beats or rainfall sounds. But, and this is key, what works for one person might not work for another. It's all about experimentation. Speaking of which, let's talk about the importance of developing focus habits and routines.
Right? Because it's not just about the environment, is it? It's also about training our brains to recognize when it's time to concentrate.
Exactly. It's like Pavlov's dogs, but instead of salivating at the sound of a bell, we're training our brains to focus on cue. This could be as simple as starting work at the same time each day, or using a specific playlist to signal the start of a focus session. The key is consistency.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when we're faced with an overwhelming number of tasks? How do we prioritize effectively?
The eternal struggle of the to-do list. This is where techniques like time blocking and the one thing method come in handy. Time blocking involves assigning specific tasks to uninterrupted focus sessions. And the one thing method, well, it's about choosing one key task each day that aligns with your long-term goals.
I like that idea of having a daily, big win to strive for. It reminds me of the 4D framework: delete, delegate, defer, or do. Have you ever tried that approach?
Oh yeah, the 4D framework is a game changer. It's all about cutting through the clutter and focusing on what truly matters. But you know what? All these techniques are great, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. Let's dive deeper into the concept of deep work.
Deep work? That's about dedicating specific blocks of time to uninterrupted, highly focused work on challenging tasks, right?
Spot on. Cal Newport, who coined the term, defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. And here's the kicker. In our increasingly distracted world, the ability to perform deep work is becoming both more rare and more valuable.
That's fascinating. So, how do we cultivate this ability to perform deep work?
Well, it's not easy, but it is trainable. One effective method is practicing mindfulness or meditation. It's like mental push-ups for your focus muscles. In fact, a 2011 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that just 11 hours of meditation training can lead to structural changes in the brain associated with attention and self-regulation.
Wow, that's impressive. I've been meaning to start a meditation practice. Do you have any tips for beginners?
Start small. Even just 5 minutes a day can make a difference. There are some great apps out there with guided meditations that can help you get started. But here's something interesting. It's not just about being in a state of intense focus all the time. There's actually value in alternating between what's called hyperfocus and scatter focus.
Those sound like superhero powers. What's the difference between the two?
Haha, they do sound pretty super, don't they? Well, hyperfocus is that state of deep concentration we've been talking about. But scatter focus is equally important. It's when we let our minds wander, which can lead to creative problem solving and new ideas. It's all about finding the right balance. Think of it like mental cross training.
That's really interesting. It reminds me of the importance of taking breaks and allowing our minds to recharge. Speaking of which, how does physical health play into all of this?
Oh, it's crucial. Exercise, nutrition, and sleep all play a huge role in our ability to concentrate. Regular physical activity, for instance, has been shown to increase the size of the hippocampus, the part of the brain involved in verbal memory and learning. And when it comes to nutrition, foods rich in omega 3s, whole grains, and vegetables can fuel our brains for better focus.
That makes sense. Our brains need the right fuel to function at their best. What about sleep? I know I struggle with getting enough sometimes.
You're not alone there. Sleep is absolutely critical for cognitive function. A study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that sleep deprivation can lead to selective attention impairment. In other words, not getting enough sleep makes it harder for your brain to focus on what's important and filter out distractions.
Yikes. That's a wake-up call. Pun intended. So, how much sleep should we be aiming for?
The general recommendation is 7 to 9 hours per night for adults. But it's not just about quantity. Quality matters too. Establishing a consistent sleep schedule and creating a relaxing bedtime routine can help improve sleep quality.
That's really helpful. As we start to wrap up, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from our discussion today?
Hmm, that's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is that focus isn't just some innate ability. It's a skill that we can cultivate and improve over time. With the right strategies, a bit of patience, and a willingness to experiment, we can all become masters of our own attention. It's empowering to know that we have more control over our focus than we might think.
I couldn't agree more. It's been fascinating to explore all these different aspects of focus and productivity. I'm sure our listeners will find plenty of strategies they can start implementing in their own lives.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone's journey to better focus will look different. It's about finding what works for you and being consistent with it. As we look to the future, I predict that the ability to focus deeply will become an increasingly valuable skill in our distracted world. Those who can master it will have a significant advantage in both their personal and professional lives.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Any final words for our listeners?
Just this: start small, be patient with yourself, and keep experimenting. Your future focused self will thank you. Until next time, stay curious and keep striving for your best self.